The Kansas City Chiefs are gearing up to take on the Houston Texans in a game for which the consequences seem to keep growing larger, and the circumstances around which this game seem to keep getting stranger somehow. But we do have a surprise injury which will lead to a situation which may be surprising with the practice squad and maybe upsetting for those of us who have rooted for a certain player on the Kansas City Chiefs for a long time. And I'm not talking about the guy who was injured, that's unfortunate, but the guy who should be stepping into that place. But maybe the Chiefs saw this coming, though it was a surprise. Anyway, we're just going to go ahead and get into it. The injury report dropped, and you can see here that there is a new name on it. One Nico Remigio. So, obviously, Christian Roland Wallace ruled out. He is a solid member of the defense, but maybe not the most consequential. It's a little bit upsetting because he does add a certain floor to the defense. He brings the floor up. But you see Nico Remigio listed here, and somehow his shoulder got a concussion. That is unfortunate. I have never had a shoulder concussion, but it seems very painful. Now, Trey Smith is doubtful. Jawan Taylor is doubtful. This comes on the heels of... So this is from Arrowhead Pride, but this comes from on the heels of Josh Simmons being put on the IR, for which he will have to miss at least 4 weeks. So, lots of strange things going on there. And in addition to Nico Remigio having a shoulder concussion, Noah Gray's concussion grew a shoulder. So that is very unfortunate there. It's hard to say exactly what the timeline is on your concussion growing a shoulder. Patrick Mahomes pops up with a knee. Now, somehow, Patrick Mahomes' knee being listed on the injury report is a relief because it's not his ankle. This is the time of the year where Patrick Mahomes inevitably comes up on the injury report with some type of ankle injury, which is someone who suffers with ankles. Very, very painful, very, very awkward, and you don't get any say in how it is that you are mobile or immobile with an ankle injury. Now, I said maybe the injury to Nico Remigio would be a little bit upsetting to those of us who have rooted for a certain Kansas City Chief. Obviously, everyone roots for Nico Remigio. But Brashard Smith is the next listed kick returner, and he may as well be a kick returner because they don't use him on offense. Damian Pierce, however, was recently signed, and obviously from Houston, but not just for a running back position. This is his experience with kick returns. He has 656 kick return yards, but only a few... Where are we at here? Punt returns, 0 punt returns. So he does have a kick return touchdown, so he has some experience there. It is possible, maybe even likely, that Damian Pierce is elevated from the practice squad in order to return kicks with Nico Remigio out. Will he return punts? It seems doubtful. Who will return punts? I don't know. There is... So Dave Tobe had said that Xavier Worthy is the most explosive punt returner on the team. He may have said most explosive return guy on the team. I can't quite remember. But I think that is unlikely to be the case, that we see Xavier Worthy out there in any meaningful special teams role, simply because Xavier Worthy is a very small player, and you are more likely to take a great big hit on special teams than you are on offense, for example. So I don't think they will risk Xavier Worthy in that fashion. It may be that we see Brashard Smith returning punts. I don't know. I don't think Andy Reid really likes to trust that kind of job or responsibility to a rookie. maybe, with it being so late in the season, we will see that happen. The other options they have, I don't really know. So things are difficult for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is PFF's ranking of defensive lines. You see here, not only are the Texans ranked number 2, they're actually moving up. The prior week, they were ranked number 3. A PFF WAR of 757, not quite the Cleveland Browns. I mean, Myles Garrett is working miracles over there in Cleveland, doing absolutely insane things. But Will Anderson is no slouch with an 82.8 PFF grade himself. Pretty big chasm between number 1 and number 2 here, but that doesn't mean that number 2 is a bad place to be if you are the Houston Texans. So, it is going to be an uphill battle. And we get a little bit from the Chiefs coaching staff in an article titled, "For the Chiefs, Salvaging 2025 with a Win over the Texans Will Be Tough. On Sunday, Kansas City faces a crucial game against a tough Houston team." From Arrowhead Pride, by Rocky Magana, we get the following. But it is the Texans' defense that has been attracting the most attention. The Chiefs' offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy, called their edge rushers, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, super relentless. They don't have to bring much pressure, explained Nagy. They can get a lot of pressure one-on-one. They're really, really good on the edge. And they're really, really good on the whole defense. That's not good news for the Chiefs. Left tackle Josh Simmons has been placed on the injured reserve list after surgery on his wrist, and right tackle Jawan Taylor has been declared doubtful for the game with triceps and knee injuries. Right guard Trey Smith is also doubtful with ankle injuries. It's probably not going to be a real pretty game, acknowledged Nagy, and that's okay. This Houston team doesn't allow many points, so when you go into it, the goal is to score as many as you can. But what's real is, how are you going to do it? I think the offensive messaging from us is, do what you're supposed to do and coach how we're supposed to coach. We have a lot of trust in our guys and a lot of confidence, but we have a lot of respect for the Texans because they're a good football team and they're very well coached. That's all true. It's not going to make you feel any better as a Chiefs fan. That's all true, and it plays directly into the things that the Chiefs, where the places where the Chiefs are vulnerable, i.e. the offensive line, especially the tackle positions. So, this could be a real bummer of a video, a real downer of a video. You guys know I don't really do that. You know I don't really complain about a whole lot. But I would like to raise a point here of hope and why we should be hopeful. This is, for all intents and purposes, a must-win game, right? Now, you could make the argument they've been must-win games for a little while. But it would only be an argument, and it would be pedantic, because they were not must-win games, obviated by the fact that here we are, 6-6, with the next must-win game. But now, you have to get to at least 10 wins probably to make the playoffs. I think in all likelihood you have to get to 11, meaning that with 5 games left and 6 wins, this is a must-win game. Kind of like it's already the playoffs, right? Kind of like it's already elimination time. A must-win game backed up on the ropes, the playoffs before the playoffs. Let me show you something I'm sure you already know. This is the top 6 quarterbacks ranked by most wins and fewest losses in playoff history. Obviously, Tom Brady is number 1. Won 35 games, lost 13, had a 729 winning percent. Obviously, between the Patriots and the Buccaneers. That is the number 1 winningest quarterback in playoff history. Number 2 is Patrick Mahomes. Number 2 is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has more playoff wins than any quarterback not named Tom Brady. And he did it with only 4 losses. He, in fact, has a better winning percentage than does the GOAT himself. Now, you're going to, obviously, with the law of large numbers, etc., the winning percentage could come down and it be more impressive. Obviously, 35-13 is probably more impressive than 17-4, despite the fact that he does have the better winning percentage. But just think about that for a moment. All of the great quarterbacks you've ever known. Joe Montana only won 16 playoff games, and he lost 7 in order to do it. Patrick Mahomes has more wins than Joe Montana, and he has 3 fewer losses. He's not just a little bit better than Joe Montana. He doesn't have just 1 more win than Joe Montana. That is a much better percentage by this position, by this time in his career. Terry Bradshaw, who, by the way, was a player that was kind of hailed as maybe the greatest of all time prior to Joe Montana. There was a lot of purists that were still on the Johnny Unitas, etc. trains, but people who were making the arguments for winning were making the arguments for Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls, 14-5 total in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes has 3 more playoff wins than Terry Bradshaw, 3 more playoff wins than John Elway, 3 more playoff wins even than Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning lost 13 times to get 14 wins. Patrick Mahomes has 3 more wins and 9 fewer losses. If we're sticking to that point that this is now the playoffs. Everything is do or die right now for the Kansas City Chiefs. So if we're sticking to that point, there is only one person in NFL history who has ever done more under those circumstances than Patrick Mahomes. Only one player ever to do more under those circumstances than Patrick Mahomes. We could go through this list and pick out any 2 of the pick out any 2 mini pairs of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and Patrick Mahomes would have more playoff wins than 2 of them combined. 17. A quarterback with 10 wins and a quarterback with 7 wins, those are going to be Hall of Famers. Patrick Mahomes has their postseason careers combined with only 4 losses. If this is, in fact, when the playoffs start for the Kansas City Chiefs, when the elimination contests begin for this franchise, when do or die begins, if this is when that happens, Patrick Mahomes, you can say he's the second best to ever do it, but what we're looking at is the fact that he's the most efficient to ever do it. An 810 winning percentage, 180 points higher than Tom Brady's 729 winning percentage. If this is when the elimination starts, Matt Nagy said it. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be an ugly game. That's where Patrick Mahomes lives. That's where Patrick Mahomes has lived the past 2-3 seasons. That's where Patrick Mahomes always is in the postseason. That's what postseason football is. Patrick Mahomes knows how to win those games. It's a very tall task to expect a 6-6 team to rattle off 5 consecutive wins. Just is. Any 500 team to all of a sudden nearly double their win total for the season in the span of a little over a month? It's a tall task. If anyone's going to do it, it's Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes and these Kansas City Chiefs. That's all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance from not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on the channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.